All right. All right, I'm just going to wait a second and see who comes in. Good to see everybody. All right, how's it going, guys? Again, I know there's a few people that are coming in. I'm just going to get started. You guys are here. That's awesome. So the topic for today is big picture design. We're talking about building up design from the top and then working our way down. When I talk about an app from, say, 100 feet or 500 feet in the air, I'm talking about sort of getting the hierarchy down and then kind of building it down into the details. So let me start off. I'm going to share my screen. This is actually something that I seemingly have taken forever to learn. So there, I could share my screen and just do the whole thing. All right, so now a couple of things we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about that big picture design, but we're also going to be talking about a couple of things that are sort of in that area, right? We're going to be talking about wireframes, and eventually we're going to touch on responsive design. Now, I know you guys are thinking about your portfolios, or you're thinking about, you know, a set of defined work that you want to share when you're looking with a job. That's cool. That's great. Remember, this is all part of the process. When you do a job interview, you want to show your process. This is something that basically every designer falls into. They sort of obsess over beautiful interfaces, and they think that if they show somebody an interface or they put it on Dribble, then it's going to basically just sell, you know, get them a job, win people over, you know, do all the right stuff. Actually, it really isn't. You know, I met a lot of people who are professional designers and they have beautiful portfolios, but then you meet them and you ask them questions and you find that they actually borrowed many of those ideas from other apps. So their job is really just production. And that is not something that companies pay a lot of money for. Production, you know, anybody can do that, really. It's just kind of a whiz kid in Illustrator. But UX design is talking about strategies. We're talking about thinking about features at the very big level, rather than just worrying about typography and that kind of stuff. Anyway, let's jump in. We're going to touch on these three things. And yes, you guys are going to be doing some kind of in-class exercises in Figma. Let's jump in here. All right, so this word that you sometimes hear people talk about, information architecture. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that one. It sounds very geeky. Let me give you an example of what this really means. So say you guys are traveling, you and your family are, you know, going to Walmart or something on a trip, and you say, oh, I'm just gonna stop by and pick up some food or something like that. You've never been into this Walmart, and you walk in, and I guess my question is, how do you know, in this case, pickles, how do you know where to find the pickles? Can anybody tell me? An all new Walmart.
You can look for the pickles by checking the aisle, the section, like the titles on the aisle.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. So you can see on the screen, it's not really that clear, but there are actually signs hanging on every aisle. So every time you go to any grocery store, your eyes go up. You immediately expect there to be a sign. Now, if there isn't a sign, suddenly you get flustered, right? You say like, what's going on? This is crazy. I've been to a million grocery stores in my life, and this one is completely random, right? In that case, you would probably just ask a staff member or something, but you would feel sort of like annoyed by the terrible design. This is basically the information architecture of the store, right? It's kind of like the way people navigate the store. And the first thing you do when you walk in, you look for the signs. That's your first go. If that fails, you kind of get flustered. You look for an alternative to the signs, and maybe now you're starting to get really annoyed, and you might ask a staff member. So when somebody checks out one of your websites or downloads one of your apps, that's what they're thinking as well. They're sort of thinking, okay, in 2021, what are some of the design patterns that people use, right? Navigation is hidden. Navigation only appears when you tap on the screen. Navigation is pinned to the bottom, like tab bars. There's all these kind of conventions that we've all done before, but when you see something that's random, again, it kind of throws you, right? So I'm not going to explain to you about Google. I'm just here to focus on the information architecture or the navigation that Google uses, right? And again, you guys have seen this before. It's basically this top bar, this top navigation here. So I search random words and I'm presented with basically a way to classify the data, right? So all images, maps, news. That's like the default that I found. Now you'll notice, or maybe you've already noticed, that Google is actually trying to guess what you're looking for, or guess what you want. And if you use certain keywords, it's actually going to kind of throw you a new interface. So in this case, I have the location of Los Angeles, and it kind of switches the UI around. It's not really a big deal. It's just that the settings are changed, right? They got a logo and they got a label that's updated. And I said, okay, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So again, the most important stuff is going to be at the left side and then going over to the right. And if I click this more drop down, I'm expecting, like 5 or 6 items. Okay, pretty cool. And again, here's another one, flights Los Angeles. And again, all is kind of like the catch-all, and then I can kind of cycle through. And you'll notice that flights are right here. And obviously these are all products that Google works on. So, hey, you want to buy your flights via Google? That sounds great, right? That's fantastic. All right, let's move on to another one. Again, now is 2021. Not a lot of people spend a lot of time on the Facebook website. I get it. But it's interesting to kind of look at the top and kind of see what is Facebook doing right with it. They got tons of products, tons of features and so on. What are they doing right? And is there anywhere they're going sort of sideways or they're going down? So as I say, I'm looking at the top left here of this kind of top navigation. Obviously, this is my main feed. Search bar, I got no problem with that. That's cool. Again, this is my home button. I'm searching for friends. I'm sort of guessing that this is going to be friends. I'm not really sure what I'm searching for, but they're going to be showing me like friends of friends or something like that, I guess. That's not too bad. Anything to do with people, I'm very happy on Facebook, no problem. This one, I guess you guys probably know what this is. What is this one with the 9 notifications? Nobody. All right, this is Facebook Watch. So this is Facebook Watch. It's Facebook's attempt to compete with YouTube. Now, the reason why it's here is actually kind of a stickler for me, because I'm not searching for it. And it's certainly not coming up in my feed. I'm not really searching for anything right now. But suddenly I'm getting all these notifications. So Facebook is kind of doing 2 things really badly. One, it's showing me something that has sort of nothing to do with my search or any of my content. And 2, it defaults to sending me notifications for something that I never really searched for in the first place. This is almost like, I don't want to use this word, but it's almost like harassment in a weird way, right? If this was happening, IRL, this would be literally somebody trying to get your attention. Like, hey, come here, look at this, come here, look at this, right? It would be like annoying. The next one over, and I've used this before, it's related to the marketplace. Again, I've used it. I know what Facebook is doing. They're trying to put it in my face because obviously there's going to be a financial transaction there, possibly. But those are the 2 things that are just like Facebook is thinking about their bottom line. And I have a hamburger menu. You guys probably know a hamburger menu is basically just a Other menu, it's like the extra features that couldn't make it to the main menu. I have a plus feature. I'm not really sure what that is. Chats, good. Notifications, no problem. And this down arrow, I'm not really sure what that is. Maybe it's another hamburger menu. Anyway, I'm just going to click through and wrap these up in a second. So the first one here is a hamburger menu. Yes, Facebook has lots of products. I got no problem with that. It's nice and clean, and I like the colored icons. They look great on a solid background. The next one is this plus menu. This is basically any time you're trying to add something to Facebook, like creating content. Again, that's fantastic. You know, you want to create a video, or you want to create a new event or whatever, you just come here. You don't have to worry about finding it in any of the menus. Great, no problem. And the last one here, I guess I just figured out that the down arrow is actually account management and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, okay, that's fine. It wasn't very intuitive, but it's not a big deal. I'm probably not going to click that. So let's go. All right, and the last one I got to touch on here is Amazon. Again, Amazon is pretty complex. It's pretty great. Again, a lot of people kind of know what they're looking for. They come here, they search for a product, they're done. You know, it's pretty simple. All this stuff here is really just, you know, worrying about, I bought something, but I didn't like it, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like the panic mode for a shopper. The one thing I want to focus on is here, most of the stuff is great. What do you guys notice about their digital content and devices? Do you notice anything they have in common?
It's all hardware that Amazon sells.
Very good. Yeah, that's right. It's all hardware that Amazon sells. Yeah, I could just comment that this is all stuff that Amazon owns. So Amazon is, once again, they're doing something right, because obviously, you know, the Echo and the Alexa are very successful devices. But just remember, Amazon's doing the same thing. They're kind of saying, hey, we built the interface, we can stick our stuff in the interface. But mostly this is a fantastic interface. Like, a lot of people really love Amazon. I certainly don't have a problem with this. But just notice this is an example of how Amazon is doing it, right? They take over a category and they might buy up a company, and then they'll promote it through the interface. All right, so we're gonna do a little exercise here. Index card sorting, or just card sorting, is something that UX researchers do, as well as UX designers do. And essentially what it is the very first way that you would start to plan out features that you like in the app. And again, just imagine that you had a cloud, you had 30 features, and you want to ship this product in 6 months, and you're trying to think of the very first start is, how do I organize my app into screens, right? You're starting to think about the kind of site layout of this app or of this website, and you got all these different functions and features. So maybe the first thing you might do is you might do card sorting. And what that is essentially taking all these features and trying to bundle them up into categories that make sense. So all these 6 features go together, that's one column. All these 4 features go together, that's another column. All these, and so on like that. So we're actually just building columns of features, and we just want these features to be similar, right? Similar, and why? Going back to what we talked about with the Walmart example, is if you go to find pickles, you can kind of expect that ketchup and mustard are going to be nearby, right? So that's kind of the category of consumables or something like that for food. All right, so I'm going to just kind of kick over here. Now I have a link. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this into your chat. You can click on it. You're going to be sent straight into Figma, and you're going to check out the work. It's essentially a bunch of features. Why don't I just back out here, and you guys can see it. I'll just open the link here. All right, so if I zoom out here, you can see this is nice and clean. Now what I have here is essentially, it's an e-commerce store, and I'm trying to imagine how I'm going to lay out the store, right? So I'm trying to think of what categories I can do. So you guys can jump in and you guys can figure out what the categories are. And if you're done, for extra kind of bonus content, what you might do is come here and imagine this is the navigation bar of your website. What would these links be, right? So they might be the names of categories. So what might they be? So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to click. I'm going to go ahead and click share. Make sure everybody can edit this. And I'm coming back. And I'm just going to drop this into the chat. Very good. Oh, there you go, guys. So when you see it, please click on it and jump in. You should be able to edit anything. That you guys should be able to come in here and yeah, just pick one of these boxes and try to reorganize them in a way that makes sense or that is logical to you. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, if you don't have a Figma account, don't worry, everything's free. No worries, everything's free. All right, looks like you guys are doing great. I'm just gonna wrap it up in a couple minutes. All right, guys. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing. It sounds great. I'm gonna sort of jump back into a couple things and try to show you sort of what I did on my end. So if I sort of zoom out, zoom back in here. So here's kind of what I came up with. I saw some people who did something similar where they reorganized something in, maybe I'm just looking at these columns. I said these are sort of hats. These are pants. It says here boots or footwear. These are sort of shirts or tops. And these, I just kind of put these all together and I said accessories. And here's my stupid company name. And here are my various categories. And from left to right, I put the most important stuff on the left and the least important stuff on the right. This is a pretty simple design pattern that, again, your users will probably expect, right? That's kind of what they're looking for. And again, the accessories will include a little items here and there. And I think a lot of you did that, so fantastic. Now, one thing I want to comment on is this is something that you can show a user or a potential user. Again, you don't want to give away the name of the product. You don't want to spoil the product or anything like that. But these kind of features, this kind of card sorting, this is the kind of thing that users would love to play. And this is the kind of stuff that people love to film. Is if you're filming a beta tester or a kind of an interviewee, you're filming them, watching them doing card sorting, and maybe you could hear them talking through it. Like, oh, this goes over here, these two are the same, and so on like that. Again, you could definitely do it. But again, whenever possible, see if you can lean on the user a little bit, just in case your perspective or your age or something like that doesn't match the users. So again, great way to start out. I already have my navigation at the top. And again, it was an incredibly complex system like Facebook. This would actually just be a menu that would have multiple items in it. and so on. Or maybe you would say shirts, and if you click on it, it would say men's shirts, women's shirts, unisex, or something like that, right? Anyway, you get the idea, and I think this is a great starting point for a solid navigation. Again, going from here, building a sitemap is really just a matter of getting them in the right category, right? You could go from there and you could actually just translate it into a sitemap, and you could bounce that off the client. I'm always trying to think about sort of what the client is doing, or bounce that off the user, right? Is this the most appropriate layout for the website? Again, this is the kind of stuff that should be somewhere in your portfolio. Anyway, simple matter there. I always want to bring this guy up. Matt D. Smith is one of my favorite designers, and again, I've watched a bazillion YouTube videos with tutorials and that kind of stuff. And Matt D. Smith is pretty cool. Not only is he just fantastically talented, but I've seen him present. I've actually bought his courses before, and I feel like he's just a rock star. Now this one, it says, and you can grab his course. This is a $500 course. Again, I don't want to spend $500 on a course. I could actually see him on YouTube, as I mentioned here. He does have free YouTube videos. You can find him on the Adobe Creative Cloud website, or frankly, there's lots of other designers who are totally different from him. But I just feel like this is one thing that he's kind of shown me through his work. And in these kind of videos, he'll actually just talk you through the process. Or they might be mocking up a little app in 2 hours, and he'll just kind of talk you through the process. I don't know if you guys have watched these Adobe videos before, but they're typically 2 hours long, and they're usually about maybe 2 or 3 videos, say in a weekend. So they'll do 1 video each day, and they'll probably get 3 videos out. So it'll be something like Matt D. Smith builds a mobile app, and it'll say like 1 out of 3 or something like that. So terrific resource. Please check it out. Adobe just puts out this free content so that people can show off their tools, but what they're really doing is they're pulling in some of the best designers and illustrators in the world to show their work. All right, so here's another thing that I want to touch on, and that's wireframes. And again, I think you guys are probably already pretty good at wireframes. I'm just having a drink. So wireframes are pretty simple. Again, we've all seen these kind of like X boxes before, and we all kind of get it. Okay, the X boxes are supposed to be images, and everything else is supposed to be real text. And why do we do this? We do this because we want to build layouts that don't take a long time, because it's a waste of your energy if the client doesn't like it. Now, you're probably getting a project manager or a client or somebody to be approving every stage of development. So that's why I say client. It's going to be somebody on the client side who's going to be approving your work, and that's why we want to show them this stuff. We also really don't want the client to get fussy about colors and fonts and all that stuff, because it's really not that important. It's really easy to change a color or change a font. That's easy. But changing features or implementing these kind of components and how they change when you stretch the screen out and all, like that's a lot more complicated. One thing that I'll mention here is, if possible, try to use as much real text as possible. This is make a resolution. So like this should be the real text that the client's going to use. And the thing that I always get from clients is they always say, build it out first, and then I'll come in with the text later. That's what they want. And frankly, it's the client. You want to make them really happy, and they'll probably force you into doing that. Unfortunately, what that's going to mean is a lot of stuff is going to change when you go from the kind of basic wireframe to the wireframe that actually has text. So yeah, whenever possible, use real text, and that will allow you to kind of just shuffle things up with real values. As I said, they're low resolution so that we can make decisions at this kind of big picture level. We don't want people to get confused or kind of, maybe I don't like this color or that color. That's the idea. Ideal for sharing with the clients. Once they nail that, we can actually turn around and start sharing this with developers. And developers might come in and start building things out and say, I know how to build this, this, and this, and they start getting to work. This will allow you, here, developers can work on this stuff while you kind of nail the visual design elements like typography and colors and stuff like that, which are really easy to do with CSS. All right, so we're going to move on to the next topic, which is talking about your responsive design, right? So when you go shopping, you expect every shirt to be in multiple sizes, and it's the same thing with your creations, your digital creations, right? So your digital creations are also responsive, and that's because everybody has a phone, everybody has a laptop or a keyboard or whatever, and we expect that web is going to move and scale to fit the screen. Even when you think about a mobile app, it still has to move and scale to fit different phones, say on iOS or Android. And you might even say, well, what about when you look at it on a tablet? And so, well, it kind of goes like this, so you still have to make that decision at some point. So a question that I ask is, and I'm just thinking about web designers because, I could take the window and I can shuffle it. Do web designers start on the mobile screen size and build to the desktop, or start on the desktop and build down to mobile? Does anybody know? What do you guys think? Yeah, so I can check it out.
Is it up to the designer? Like they could start, it depends on like what their main goal is.
Yeah, so for example, if you're talking to a client, like an enterprise client, they're probably gonna, well, I'm not guessing, but I'm just gonna say that in some enterprise clients, they'll say, well, I would never look at this on my phone, right? That's usually what they would say, right? It's a really complicated app. I would never look at this on my phone. I hear you. That's absolutely true. My biggest issue there is that if you're never gonna look at it on your phone, you still have this weird value where you have to consider what happens when the screen size changes. And my rule of thumb is that I would rather people start on the small end. So they start on mobile and then build up to a bigger screen, because building up to a bigger screen is easy, right? It's like, oh, cool, there's lots of empty space. I can add new things, no problem. But building down is painful. It's extremely painful. You realize that, oh, the buttons are too big. Oh, this is breaking. You start to notice what breaks, and it becomes extremely uncomfortable. So whenever possible, even if the client isn't paying for it, maybe start thinking about what the mobile experience would be. At the wireframe stage, start thinking about what the mobile experience would be, and then just kind of build up from there. And I think it's really, really valuable. And maybe the client's going to come back in 6 months and say, some clients are asking for a mobile version. What do you think? And you'll be ready to build it, rather than being completely screwed because you're kind of backed into a corner. Again, I honestly, even when I heard clients telling me stuff like that, they said, oh, don't worry, we'll never use it on mobile. I still did the wireframes in mobile because it was just so painful to get into that positions where I was getting crunched going down. So just build up, not down. All right, so moving to desktop, what I want to try in this next exercise is we're essentially going to be doing a wireframe with some very basic blocks. And I just want to start on mobile, and I want to kind of build across from left to right to something like a tablet and to something like a desktop. So now these are going to kind of be shuffled in a strange order. So you're allowed to reshuffle them however you want vertically, and just sort of stretch and expand as you build across from left to right. So let's check it out. There should be a link here. I'm going to click on this link, and I'm going to share this with you when I get in there. All right, yeah, this screen. So the idea here is if I come up here, I'm going to ungroup these, and I'm going to come up here, and you can see here I got, let's see here, there's a footer, there's a logo menu, a recommendation. So this might be something like an e-commerce site, and they might be recommending you gifts, something like Amazon. And there might be ratings, there might be a search box, there might be a cart function. So you don't have to add anything. I'm not trying to add words or anything visual here. I'm just trying to shuffle them into the correct order and then build them across from left to right. So I just want to go through this experience with you and see how easy it is and comfortable it is. And you'll notice that I built these little dotted red lines. Do you guys have any idea what these red lines mean?
It's what the viewers are going to see when they first open up.
Yeah, thank you. You got it. So the idea is, what's gonna be there should be the important stuff, right? The most important stuff has got to be above. I actually once heard a designer who was designing portfolios, and he said, if you've ever worked for some good companies, those company logos need to be right here. All right, they can't be below this fold. This is actually taken from the world of newspapers. And if you had advertising or something like that, if it was below the fold, it meant that you had to unfold the paper, then you could see it, right? So the best stories were here and the second best stories were down here. So think about what the most important stuff is that goes above that red line. All right, so let me just grab my thing here. I'm going to click on this thing to some of the other students, I guess. I'm going to go back into chat. I'm going to try to drop the link. All right, give it a shot. So you guys can jump in, grab one. There should be enough for everybody here. And yeah, try to shuffle them around. And then once you're happy with mobile, try to kind of build it across from left to right. And decide for yourself, like, what do I want to get bigger as I move from left to right? Right on. Yeah, you should just right click on the big box and you can just ungroup it and you should be good. As I said, looking good, guys. Maybe just a couple more minutes. Yeah, looking really good. Again, I'll just point out now that, we've talked about stuff like images or things that are sort of visually interesting. I would say all those things are really valuable on desktop, right? So for example, if you're taking some content and you're kind of spreading it out and you're giving it all of these pixels and you say, oh, taking up this much space, it doesn't really do anything for the user. This is where stuff like visuals or maybe other branding or things like advertisements might be valuable. Advertisements is kind of a funny answer, but anything that is visual might be really valuable on the desktop, and it actually might disappear on things like tablet and mobile. These are other things that you can do with these pixels. Other things that you might do is you might say, I really want these two items to be above that red line on the desktop. And that means that instead of spanning from left to right, it can just take up half the screen and you can get twice as many kind of components on the screen. These are all just ways that you deal with responsive design, depending on your values. So yeah, if you're done, you can kind of scroll around and check out other people's work. Got a lot of really cool stuff. You guys are doing great. And the concept is that this is essentially one screen, right? This would be like the landing page, for example. And so you could export them all as PNGs and you could share them with the client. And if you wanted, you could label them. You might say like, here's where the user does this, here's where the user does that, or so forth. And email them to your client and try to get their feedback. The other thing you can do is if you look on Figma, this Figma has a button here called share, and you can actually just share a link with your client, and they can come in and comment on stuff. What I might do is I might share my screen here. Come back for a second. So I'm just sharing my screen just so I can show you what a client could do. So as you can see here at the top right, there's a share button. That's where you go to get a link so you can share it with anybody you want. And obviously you can make it view only. So you might come to, nobody's using this, so I can do it. You might come down here and you can see here, there is a button here. And if I just tap the button C, or I click this button, it allows me to comment somewhere. And if you're up for it, you can actually ask your client to start adding some comments here. And this is one way that we can work, using the web. We can actually work across, lots of space, and we can get really, really detailed before we approve various screens and flows. So in my view, one of these screens across 3 different viewports, like mobile, tablet, or the desktop, this is essentially one flow. So it's one screen, but it's spanning these 3 flows. And so a client could approve that, and then you could share it with the developer and they could start building it out. And then you would say to them, don't worry, we're going to apply things like typography and color and all that stuff. We're going to do that later. So really good stuff. I'm just going to jump back into my presentation and kind of wrap things up. I think you guys are doing great. Again, I think your work looks great. I know you guys are probably scrolling around and looking at everybody else's. Again, really nice, really good work. And you're thinking about how to span things in a useful way. So I noticed that some people have spanned this one, there's 2 across. So when I go to tablet, I'm probably going to see 4. Or if I go on the desktop, I might see, 5 or 6. You can let it grow as you kind of span it from left to right. Everything else here looks pretty good. I'm not going to be evaluating anything. I was just kind of looking at some of your cool ideas here. Yeah, very good. Really nice. As you see here, very nice, really good job here. This makes a lot of sense, right? You have more pixels, show more valuable content. That's fantastic. And somebody has like compressed some of the important values here. And we all sort of think about this, right? There's got to be a cart at the top right. That's where we expect it, and so on. So yeah, scroll around. check out everybody's done. So I'm getting ready to wrap up here. Here's the one that I did, but I think some of yours are even better. As I said here, there's a search bar somewhere. There's a recommendation somewhere. Again, you can go on the Amazon website and see it yourself. There might be some kind of individual, carousel going across. On Amazon, they like to share like, here's the last 6 things that you looked at and so forth. And the footer is all those little tiny links that aren't really that important, about us and so forth. All right, so fantastic work. And as I said, I'm not really doing this for the money. I'm kind of just doing it for practice. I have a couple other jobs that are related to education, and I just think this stuff is really interesting. If you want to add me on LinkedIn, that's great. The only reason I would use LinkedIn is just to retweet job opportunities. So maybe I'll retweet something and you'll pick it up. So yeah, if you want to, please follow me on LinkedIn, just for fun and job opportunities and so forth. Otherwise, I hope you guys you're into this stuff, and maybe I'll see you guys back next Sunday. All right, so yeah, next Sunday, we're gonna do a little bit more UI design principles. So all that visual stuff, but once we actually get approval on the wireframes, then we're gonna get into the actual design elements, like visually important stuff for fleshing out the look and feel of your app. All right. All right, guys. All right, so yeah, good job, guys, and take it easy. I hope you have a wild week. Take care. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
I think.
All right. Hey, have a good one. Bye-bye.
Michael, I have a quick question. What
Please,
was that?
please.
The YouTube channel you were talking about, the 6 hours of Adobe Photoshop.
Oh, actually, I think I'm just sharing it right now. Why don't I just do that? You guys should be able to see this. All right.
Nice.
This is basically the thing that I was referencing. So obviously you can see this, and I'm not gonna. It's not gonna take 6 hours, but this stuff just stays up here forever, and it's incredibly valuable. You'll see this is 1 of 3, so you can actually watch 6 hours of this guy building an app. And this guy is an expert, icon designer and UX designer. And if you have time, crack a beer, get some popcorn, and skip through and just kind of listen to some of his content. This is he's fantastic, and he will walk you through everything. So yeah, definitely check it out. Matt D. Smith, he rocks. Or other stuff. There's lots of other designers and illustrators, and you know what? Adobe Creative Cloud is pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing.
All right, thank you.
Right on. All right, guys. Have a good night and have a good week. Take care.